They may be talented actors, but their skills are not the only things that their fans love about them. As a matter of fact, as far as Hollywood is concerned, fans seem to be more drawn to personalities than they are to acting skills. So what happens when the fans really see that an actor or actress isn't what they thought? What happens when one narrative changes their minds? These stars knew all too well what would happen to their careers if they messed up, so they used every means necessary to preserve their perceived personality. Joan Crawford. We all know about Joan Crawford, right? Star actress of the Golden Age, started her career as a dancer, and then eventually made it into Hollywood to dazzle her fans from all around the world. Well, that's the version that the rest of the world knows, but there's a deep secret that most people do not know, and it surrounds the beginning of Joan's career. She starred in an adult movie, and the aim was simple, to boost her acting career and get a lot of people talking about her. If word about her adult movie spread, that may be the end of Joan's career. The studio could not have that. This was when a man named Manx entered the scene. You see, Manx worked as a studio fixer for MGM. His job was essentially to make problems go away. It was said that using MGM's money, he went ahead to track down and buy every single copy of the tape and then destroy them all. He also spent another $100,000 to buy the original film negative, so no copy of the film could ever be made again. And so, a huge crisis was averted, and Joan was in the clear to continue her career and keep up appearances as Hollywood's golden girl. This would have been a terrible scandal, but it was covered up expertly. Loretta Young's adopted child isn't adopted. After The Call of the Wind in 1935, Loretta suddenly disappeared. No one saw her in any other film. She made no other media appearances. Granted, no shows. She fell silent. However, after 18 months, she resurfaced and decided to show the world what she had been up to in her media silence. Apparently, Loretta had decided to adopt a girl child and raise her like her own. It was her new passion, and she wanted to give that child a better life. But in reality, it turned out that Loretta had been involved sexually with Clark Gable, who was married to someone else. And on top of that, rumor had it that the encounter wasn't consensual on Loretta's part. Therefore, having a child from that union would do incredible damage to her career. So after 18 months of her disappearance, Manx made it look like she had adopted a child, a newborn. But in fact, it was her child from her illicit encounter with Clark Gable, yet another scandal covered up. Alfred Hitchcock's obsession with his leading ladies. It was Tippi Hedren who bore the brunt of Hitchcock's fixation. As Hitchcock was riding high on the success of Psycho, he plucked the relatively unknown Hedren to star in The Birds. She became an instant sensation, but there was a catch. She was tied to a contract that left her in a vulnerable position, and to make matters worse, he made several advances towards her, all of which she resolutely rejected, and this infuriated him even more. Eventually, Hedren reached her breaking point, so one day, in a fit of frustration, she dared to call Hitchcock a fat pig and continued to spurn his advances. Little did she know this would be the spark that would ignite his relentless vendetta. He not only refused to work with her again, but also prevented her from collaborating with other directors. Despite her best efforts, Hedren's career never truly recovered from the onslaught of Hitchcock's vindictive schemes, but sadly, she could not report any of these to anyone. William Hearst's crime covered up. He was a force to be reckoned with, one of the most influential figures in the United States, and the very muse for Orson Welles' cinematic masterpiece, Citizen Kane. But beneath his veneer of power and wealth, Hearst was known to be ruthless, hot-tempered, and, on occasion, downright nasty. Now, it's only fair to assume that such a man wouldn't take news of his mistress having an affair lying down. Marion Davies, the object of Hearst's affections, was rumored to be entangled with none other than the iconic Charlie Chaplin. Instead of confronting Chaplin directly, Hearst devised an unconventional plan. He invited Chaplin and a motley crew of other film luminaries to join him on his opulent yacht. Enter Thomas Ince, a Hollywood producer specializing in Western films. His studio had once thrived, but it was now floundering. In dire need of investors, Ince boarded Hearst's yacht with the hope that this journey might be the key to turning his fortunes around. Little did he know how dramatically his fate would change. The official version of Ince's death, hurriedly printed in Hearst's newspapers, was that he had succumbed to sudden digestive problems despite prompt hospitalization. Curiously, Ince's body was immediately subjected to cremation. Yet, try as Hearst might to assert control over the narrative surrounding Ince's demise, unsettling rumors refused to be silenced. Whispers persisted that Hearst had taken aim at Chaplin, missing his mark and tragically striking Ince instead. The Los Angeles Times initially ran the headline "Movie producer shot on Hearst yacht," but it was abruptly pulled, and subsequent editions bore no mention of the shooting. William Hearst, using his power and influence, played off the whole thing and shut the mouths of anyone else who knew the truth, and the evil deed on that yacht that night was covered up. Gable in a hit and run. It's whispered in hushed tones that Eddie Manx may have played a role in helping Clark Gable hide a dark secret, a hit-and-run incident, a tragic event that took the life of actress Tosca Roulian. Some say that Manx, with his influential connections, orchestrated a cover-up. He allegedly persuaded an MGM screenwriter to shoulder the blame for Gable, protecting the Hollywood legend from scandal and public scrutiny. Paul Byrne's death was arranged. Being a multifaceted talent at MGM, he was not only known for his work but also for being the husband of the iconic starlet, Jean Harlow. His life, however, took a dark and mysterious turn when it's said that Manx may have played a role in his untimely demise. It's a story that tugs at the heartstrings, a man who, in the face of marital strife, saw no way out but to take his own life. The details surrounding his death have always been shrouded in mystery, but some whispers suggest that Manx's influence might have had a hand in this tragedy, and it was covered up. Patricia Douglas was abused. Douglas, a young aspiring actress, attended a casting call that turned into a nightmarish ordeal. She was told to wear a revealing outfit and entertain the men in attendance. Shockingly, the event took a harrowing turn, with allegations of Douglas being subjected to a heinous act. When Patricia Douglas tried to seek justice against Eddie Manx and MGM for their alleged involvement, she found herself battling not only the power of the studio but a web of deceit. It's said that other guests at the event were paid to claim that Douglas had been uncontrollably drunk, painting her as unreliable and undermining her credibility. As the day of the court hearing arrived, a cloud of mystery descended. No lawyers representing MGM and Manx appeared, leading to a sudden dismissal of the case by a federal judge. Manx staged George Reeves' suicide. Long before Christopher Reeve donned Superman's iconic cape, another actor, George Reeves, stepped into the role of the Man of Steel. However, George Reeves's life took a tragic turn in 1959 when he allegedly committed suicide. But what lies beneath the surface is a scandal that was covered up. You see, George Reeves was entangled in a torrid affair with the wife of the great and powerful Hollywood figure, Eddie Manx. Surprisingly, Manx himself was rumored to have his own share of extramarital affairs, so he turned a blind eye to the romance between Reeves and his wife. However, the plot thickens when George Reeves decided to end the relationship. Allegedly, Manx, driven by anger and vengeance, took drastic measures. Some sources suggest that he called upon his underworld connections, the mafia, to orchestrate Reeves' murder and stage it to appear as he took his own life. Jean Harlow's involvement in Husband's Demise, the original blonde bombshell, had a roller coaster life in Hollywood. She skyrocketed to stardom after her appearance in Howard Hughes's film Hell's Angels. However, her personal life was tumultuous. At a tender age of 15, Harlow married her first husband, only to divorce a few years later. Her second husband met a tragic end in a gunshot accident, with speculation swirling around her involvement. This posed a significant scandal. To manage the situation, the studio coerced her into marrying cinematographer Harold Rawson, a union meant for public appeasement, quietly dissolving once the scandal faded from memory. Studio-aided abortions. Hollywood studios established secretive protocols for cases with promiscuous actresses. They were discreetly admitted to hospitals under false names for ambiguous procedures, attended solely by their private doctors, and strictly isolated from visitors. Tallulah Bankhead was one of the recipients of this practice. During her career, she was notoriously promiscuous, but she had to face a stark reality that the film studios wouldn't tolerate a pregnant star, leading her to undergo 4 abortions before reaching the age of 30, simply to save face in the streets of Hollywood. If there is anything we can learn from all these, it's that some Hollywood stars can be twisted and vindictive. Check out these twisted relationships in Hollywood that would make your skin crawl.